Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another What I Eat in a Day with some easy and delicious vegan recipes. Today's video is kindly sponsored by Millo and I'll tell you a little more about Millo in just a moment. So my breakfast on this day was some toasted almond butter oats with a protein yogurt and berries. For the oats, I added a teaspoon of coconut oil to a pancake pan on a low to medium heat. I melted that down and spread it around the pan. Then I added in half a cup of jumbo oats, not porridge oats, they will not work for this. I turned them through the oil and then just toasted them off, constantly moving them for around 10 minutes until they were lightly toasted. Meanwhile, I mixed together 2 tablespoons of crunchy almond butter with an equal amount of maple syrup until it was well combined. And then I poured that into the pan over the toasted oats and turned them through to coat them. I kept that just turning over for around another 10 minutes to continue toasting them. And while they were toasting, I made the protein yogurt. As I mentioned, Millo have kindly sponsored today's video. Millo is a portable cordless blender. It features a unique patented magnetic air drive, is quieter and more powerful than most blenders, with the ability to blend things like ice cubes, frozen berries and nuts. Since it's portable, it's great to take to work, on staycations or anywhere you might use Millo away from home. I made my protein yogurt in my Millo blender by adding a good couple of tablespoons of vegan Greek style yogurt to the cup. Then I added 1 scoop of vegan vanilla protein powder. I'll link to the one I'm currently loving, and around 100 milliliters of oat milk just to help it blend up. I then attached the blending lid. The Millo also has no buttons, it's all touch only except for the power button underneath. You simply rock the cup onto the base and it automatically connects. To get the blender going, you touch the edge of the base, and if you slide with your finger in an anti-clockwise direction, you can manually control the speed at which it blends. Alternatively, there are 3 other options: smoothie, pulse and silent. I used the smoothie option here since I was blending a thick yogurt, and then if you remove your finger it will automatically continue blending for 60 seconds at the speed you set it at. I just let the Millo blend that up until smooth. The Millo also comes with a drinking lid which is perfect for on the go, and if you use my coupon code Jessica you can get a free travel cup with your Millo purchase, which is great so you have a spare, especially if more than one person in the household is using the Millo. Back to the toasted oats, these almost become like crunchy granola clusters after a while, and they were looking a little something like this. I put those in a bowl with the protein yogurt just poured over the top. I added on some fresh blueberries and raspberries and then some more toasted oats and more berries on top. Such a delicious, easy breakfast. One of my go-tos recently, especially during these warm summer months. The crunchy almond butter toasted oats are a little bit crispy, but also just as chewy. You could use cashew butter, peanut butter, or even pumpkin seed butter as an alternative to the almond butter, so you can switch this up. I love the nuttiness of them with the creamy vanilla yogurt that is protein packed, so keeps me going all morning, and the fresh berries on top are lovely with all of the other flavours. For lunch I made pesto scrambled tofu. For this I took a block of silken tofu. I always use silken tofu for scrambled tofu now, it works so well, but regular tofu can also be used. I just placed that in a pan and then with a spoon roughly broke it up. To the tofu I added a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of onion granules, half a teaspoon of garlic granules, then a quarter of a teaspoon of turmeric, a small pinch of salt and a good crack of black pepper. I then just mixed that all through the tofu, but being careful not to mash it up any more than it already was. I then grabbed my Millo blender to make my pesto. I usually make my pesto with a pestle and mortar, but for a speedy pesto, I just added a large handful of fresh basil to the cup, along with 2 tablespoons of pine nuts, 3 tablespoons of cheesy nutritional yeast, a single clove of garlic, a good pinch of sea salt, and then around 4 to 5 tablespoons of olive oil. I also like to squeeze in a little lemon juice, around 2 teaspoons, and then I just blended that up. There is also a Millo app, so you can control it using that too. It connects to your Millo via Bluetooth, and so just to show you, you've got the same options of pulse, smoothie, silent and manual. I used the pulse option first for this to blend up the pine nuts and garlic, and then once they had broken down slightly, I switched to the manual blending option to blend it on at high speed until smooth. It is so speedy and easy to grab and use, as opposed to lugging my plug-in blender and food processor around the kitchen when I just want to make something quick. I then just sliced up some bread. I had this amazing paprika and pepper flake loaf, I think it was. I toasted up a couple of slices of that, and then while that was toasting, I just added a good pinch of kalinamak to the scrambled tofu. This is a black salt which has a very sulphurous taste, so it makes tofu taste like egg. I just season it to taste with that since I'd already added salt, and then I just stirred that through. I put some sliced avocado on top of the toast and then added the scrambled tofu on as well. I just drizzled my pesto over the top of the scrambled tofu. I also added on some pumpkin seeds and some fresh chopped chives. The combination of the fresh basil pesto with the eggy scrambled tofu is so delicious. I probably make fresh pesto once a week at the moment and use it for so many different things. It's so versatile and fresh is always best. This is just a typical lunch for me, something fairly quick and easy on toast. After lunch I had a snack, which was one of the Squirrel Sisters bars. I've mentioned other flavours of these protein bars before because they are incredible. They're made with just fruit and nuts, but there are 2 new flavours of these. The salted caramel peanut one is just perfection, so good, but this raspberry peanut bar is a bit more fruity. You can really taste the raspberry in it. I always fancy something sweet after lunch, and if it's not fruit then it's a snack bar. I have a lot of favourites, but these are definitely one of them. And then for dinner I made my cheesy summer greens lasagna. For this I just peeled and finely chopped up 3 shallots. I then added those to a large pan with some oil. I took 3 cloves of garlic, peeled and crushed those, then added those into the pan with the shallots. I next halved a small leek and then sliced that up into rings, and once the shallots and garlic had softened, I added the leeks into the pan and fried them off until they began to soften slightly too. I also then just topped and tailed 100 grams of green beans and halved those. I took 100 grams of asparagus, half those, and then I took 100 grams of tender stem broccoli and just trimmed the ends on those. I added the green beans, the asparagus and the tender stem to the pan next, along with 1 cup of frozen peas. I then filled the cup halfway with boiling water and poured that in just to lightly steam the greens in the pan. I added a good pinch of salt and mixed it all through. I then took what was left of the pesto from lunch, and to the cup I added 2 large handfuls of fresh spinach leaves and another handful of fresh basil leaves, just what I had left over, and I also drizzled in some more olive oil to help that blend. I blended that up until it was nice and smooth, The spinach just helps give the pesto a bit more volume, packs it out a bit more, but also packs in loads of fresh leafy greens. And so once that had finished blending, I then added it to the pan with all of the veg, added in another good pinch of salt and a crack of black pepper, and then I just turned it through to get the spinach pesto sauce mixed through all of the greens. In a separate pan, I then made a cheese sauce. I added a 1/4 cup of vegan butter on a medium heat and just melted that down. I then placed a sieve over the pan and added in a 1/4 cup of rice flour. I tapped that in through the sieve into the butter and lowered the heat, then stirred it together so that it formed a roux like this, which just helps to thicken the sauce. I gave the cup a quick rinse and then I infused the milk for the sauce in my Millo. I poured in 500 millilitres of oat milk. I added in a 1/4 cup of cheesy nutritional yeast, a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, a little pinch of ground nutmeg, then a good pinch of salt and a good crack of black pepper. I blended that up on high until it was nice and smooth and creamy. Then I slowly poured the infused milk into the pan with the roux. I added in a single bay leaf and then I just constantly stirred it, bringing it to a gentle boil so that it gradually thickened into a sauce. After around 20 minutes, I removed the bay leaf. I then took a square baking dish. I first added a layer of the green veg in the base of the dish. I then took some lasagna sheets and layered those on top of that. I then poured in a layer of the cheese sauce and spread that out evenly over the top of the pasta sheets. And then I just kept repeating that process until I'd filled the dish all the way to the top. And the last layer was a layer of the cheese sauce. I then grated some vegan parmesan over the top of the sauce, and I had preheated my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. So I placed that in the oven to bake for around 40 to 45 minutes until the top was golden and slightly crispy around the edges. And I served it up with a little more of the vegan parmesan just grated over the top. This is such a great summery alternative to your traditional vegan bolognese lasagna. I honestly can't tell you how good it is. The flavours from the spinach and the basil pesto combined with the leeks, the green beans, the asparagus, the broccoli and the peas, and then the rich cheesy sauce. It's amazing. The vegan parmesan is optional on top. You could use any other vegan cheese or skip the cheese altogether. The cheese sauce itself will still turn lovely and golden. And if you wanted to switch up the veg, you could also use some kale, some courgette, some finely chopped Brussels sprouts would be incredible too. And I love it alongside a fresh salad. I just made a quick tomato and rocket salad, which paired really nicely with it. Then for dessert, I just chopped up some fresh strawberries. I poured some vegan single cream over. I always have a carton of this in my fridge. It's great not only for desserts but for cooking as well. I then took some of my new favourite chocolate. This is the Hip chocolate, which is made using oat milk, so it's super creamy. There are 4 flavours, but I used the cookies and cream flavour here, and just melted a few squares of that to add over the top of the strawberries and cream. It's the best combination, especially with the pieces of cookie from the Hip cookies and cream chocolate, and it's the only way to have strawberries if you ask me. And that's it for another day on my plate. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, all of the recipes will be in the description box below, as well as a link to Millo and the coupon code. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye!